Indie game dev Roland Moritz, he runs Kvelt Games as the main developer for their game, The Great Rebellion, recently called out NineToPlay's medieval legacy game for rewriting European history. Roll this up over at phantompulse.com. You can find the link in the description below. This is what he wrote on X. Wow, very medieval, much legacy, rewriting and erasing our history, one piece of media at a time. I think it's pretty clear he's referring to that key art over in the right-hand corner where it is depicting an African man with a European woman and their child, and clearly trying to normalize or make you think that this was the norm during the period of Christendom in Europe, when that clearly was not the case. I think the historical record is very clear there that there weren't a lot of Africans living in Europe at that time. Now, that's not to say there weren't any, but it was definitely not the norm. They were an extreme minority, for sure. He goes on and says, this is how normalization works. No matter how wrong, keep repeating something often enough, and eventually the normoids will accept it. They will literally forget things used to be different to the point where you will look unhinged for pointing it out. I think he's absolutely right. I think we already see evidence of this. Now, obviously, it might not have to do with race, but I think we can point to gay marriage and the LGBTQ plus agenda. We saw how they normalized this through various forms of media. I think probably the most apparent one is Will and Grace television show from what was it, like the 90s, early 2000s, whenever that was running, and that clearly worked to normalize that disordered, degenerate behavior and lifestyle. So much so that when you do call that stuff out, people do think that you're unhinged now, despite the truth of the matter. It just doesn't matter because they have now convinced themselves, they've bought into the propaganda that that is simply normal. And it's not just that the people that were alive back then have bought into it. People now that weren't even alive back then, that are maybe teenagers, young adults, etc., they think it's totally normal as well, because that's now how they've been kind of indoctrinated through the education system, through the media, etc., that they're consuming. I mean, there's also, to that point, there's also been studies that where a lot of high schoolers now think that 30 or 40% of the entire population is gay, because that's how they see, or that's what they see on television, in movies, in video games. It's what they're reading in their books. Maybe not so much books, because lots of people aren't reading anymore, which is unfortunate. But that's what they're seeing, and so that's like affecting their reality, or their perception of reality, regardless of whether or not that is true or not. That's how they think. That's what they're thinking now. So Roland is absolutely right here, that people will accept this because you just tell the lie over and over and over and over again, and people begin to believe it, especially when there aren't people pushing back against it, saying, no, this is not true. And so that's why I actually applaud Roland for calling this out. I know I've already seen some criticisms of this, like, why are you reporting on this like small indie game? And obviously they could I could be Streisanding affecting the game, and that's definitely quite possible, but I think we still need to call this stuff out. We still need to speak the truth. We still need to call out the lies. We still need to call out this agenda, no matter if it's coming from Dragon Age, the Veil Guard, and its 10-minute transgender lecture, and then having the characters do barbs, etc. We also have to call it out here too, where it might be a little bit more subtle and it's a little bit more indie, etc. I think that is something we still need to call out. We need to excise this ideology from our society. So you don't just call it out at the top or the big games. You got to call it out at the small ones as well. And then he also had this thread here too, which I found really interesting. He says, stories are always referring to things in the real world, and the stories in our heads then go on to influence the real world again in turn. If that wasn't the case, we wouldn't have trillion-dollar efforts to influence the stories people tell and consume. That sounds like a pretty banal thing to say, but man, I would be rich if I had €1 for every time I hear, shut up, it's just a story, bro. It's only fiction, bro. Maybe somebody should tell the people at BlackRock that it's just a fictional story. It doesn't matter. Let people enjoy things. And he's absolutely right here. These people will tell you that that's exactly what they're doing. I did a video yesterday, or I think it was part of my Trent Talk, which I do every Wednesday at 2:30 p.m., where there's a letter from letter from all of these actors over in the UK condemning the UK Supreme Court, recognizing that sex is binary and that they're only men and women, and you can't transition between them. And they say at the end of their letter that they view movies, television, etc., as powerful methods of transforming hearts and minds, and that is what they are going to do. Like, these people tell you that they are going to be propagandizing you with the movies, television, video games, etc., that they are making. And then even people who might not be having a nefarious agenda, people like Jon Favreau, have also talked about this as well. He says that the movies and television shows that he's making, the video games that are being made, they are being made to pass down values to the next generation. And he said that, and while he's like promoting The Mandalorian, etc. And so they are very well aware that this stuff does indeed work. So anyone trying to say that this is not the case, you have to question why. Why are they trying to say that it's not the case when the people who are literally propagandizing you are trying to normalize a lot of this stuff, are literally telling you that that's what they are doing, right? So good to have Roland point this out, and I'm glad that he's out here calling this stuff out. We need more people like him to have the courage to call it out, even on the smaller platforms that might not be as big of a games. We don't just need to call out the Assassin's Creed Shadows, the Dragon Age, the Veil Guards, but we also got to call out these games here like Medieval Legacy 2 that are pushing the same agenda, just on maybe a lower scale. But let me know what you guys make of this. Let me know in the comments below. Remember to always be charitable, especially to each other, and to always, always speak the truth.
Why would you be afraid of the people? Why are you not afraid of God instead of man?